Okay. Welcome to today's episode of Commissioner's Corner. I'm your host, Allen County Commissioner Ron Turpin. Their mission statement is that they empower people with disabilities to achieve their highest potential by providing comprehensive services and programs. If you or someone you know has a disability, you have probably met today's guest and utilized the services of Turnstone, a local nonprofit agency in our community. For a number of years, I had the privilege of being on Turnstone's board, and during that time, I got to work closely with Mike Mushett, Turnstone's longtime CEO. For the next hour, we'll visit with Mike, get to know him more, and talk about where Turnstone has been, where they're going, and what the future holds for their mission. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ron, and thanks for the opportunity to join you this morning. I do remember you meeting you at the first board meeting that I attended in December of 2014.
Wow, I knew it's been a while, so yeah, it has been. So my first question always is, most people never get the chance to share their story, to tell a little bit about where they've gotten to where they're at and where they're at today. You're a transplant to Fort Wayne. You moved here, as you said, 12 years ago to take on the role of CEO from the previous very long tenured CEO, Nancy Lorraine, which a number of people probably know. And you've got a fascinating journey that I doubt most people have any clue of. So can you spend some time and kind of tell us about who you are and what brought you to Fort Wayne and what you do today?
Sure. I was born in the small town of Norwalk, Ohio, oldest of 9 children. Grew up in a home with 6 sisters and 1 bathroom, so I think that helped me establish patience as a key attribute growing up. But growing up with a small town environment, I had a chance to work with some groups of people with disabilities, and I think that got me first interested. But my first love was sports, and that got me rolling. Small town, Norwalk St. Paul High School. You could play all the sports you wanted. We won a state football championship. I went on to Xavier University, played college football. Claim to fame there was playing on the last football team before they dropped football. And they're still wearing shirts around campus undefeated since 1973. So it's sports was always big. And at Xavier, I had the opportunity to student teach and ended up working with a class of students with disabilities. And that really set me on the track to where I am today and gave me the opportunity to combine my love of sports and the joy of working with people with disabilities.
So what kind of drew you to that work?
I'm not really sure. It's just something that I did enjoy. I think throughout my life I have been mission-driven, wanted to make a difference. And I also always rooted for the underdog. And I guess I saw people with disabilities back in the 70s when I got started in my career truly were the underdogs, just given opportunities, lack of opportunities in education, workforce, sports, all those type things. And so it was an opportunity to jump into something I enjoyed and make a difference.
So you've mentioned that you've been with Turnstone 12 years now, since 2014. But you've had a long history of working with the disabled and with sports before that. Can you walk us through what some of those prior things looked like?
Sure. My master's degree in recreation therapy was from Central Michigan University. And one of my old college buddies was director of Parks and Recreation in Westland, Michigan, and he provided me my first job out of college, and that got me rolling on my career. Got very involved in adaptive sports at a local level, and then had an opportunity in 1980s to go to work for an event that was taking place. It was a precursor to the Paralympic Games, and it was called the International Games for the Disabled. It was on Long Island, New York in 1984. And we pulled together that event that got me rolling. And it was enjoyable but grueling experience. After that, I went back to Michigan for a few years, working in the Parks and Recreation Department. And then 1992 had another opportunity to go to work in Atlanta for the Atlanta Paralympic Games, which were scheduled in 1996. So I got to be part of that organizing committee from the ground up, and it was really the first of the modern, I think, Paralympic Games was in Atlanta, and so that was a great experience. I was director of game operations, so I had my hands involved in everything from transportation, housing, security, event operations, and just a wide variety of things, and was a great education experience for me. After that, I took a position at Georgia State University for a few years on faculty, working in adaptive sports and special education programs. And then in 2006, I was given the opportunity to go to work for the U.S. Olympic Committee, and it was in the Paralympic division, which was relatively new at the time, and got to travel the world, accompany the U.S. team in a number of Paralympic Games around the world. And one of my major focuses was community programming. We set up a national network of programs called Paralympic Sport Clubs, which we ultimately had over 250 clubs around the country, and they were local sport clubs, not unlike what we have had at Turnstone, opportunity for local kids with disabilities to get involved in sports. So, that worked out for a number of years. And then I think it was in 2014, Nancy Lorraine, my predecessor, and some Turnstone board members came out to Colorado and presented this great idea that I thought was a boondoggle at the time, that they're going to build this huge sports center for people with disabilities, and was going to be the largest in the country. And they had a lot of community support, and it was going to be a great thing. And of course, at the Olympic Committee, we probably heard a couple of these presentations every year that people were going to do something like this, but turned out that Fort Wayne and Turnstone was very interested, very committed. Nancy, we stayed in touch, and she indicated that they had received the seed funding for the project from Ron Plasman, the namesake of the Plasman Athletic Center, and that they were going to start the design and construction phase. And would she mind if she gave my name to a couple of architect firms and builders to serve as a consultant and to design the Plasman Center. And I ended up working with a design collaborative and Michael Kinder and Son, who ended up getting the project. And so I was able to be involved in the design and construction of the Plasman Athletic Center.
Yeah. Well, great. So one of the things, we'll get a little more into Paralympic sports and some of these things as we get through our hour long today. You've been CEO for 12 years, and I'm sure there's not every day looks the same, but what does a typical day look like for you?
A typical day, I am generally an early riser. So by 6 a.m., I'm out taking a walk or a jog, and it's opportunity to clear my head a little bit, kind of plan for the day. Each day is different. And after the run, I get back home, get the first wave of emails completed, and get ready to go in the office. Many days there's a early morning meeting, but generally I'm in the office ready to roll by 8 a.m. And I start each day with my to-do list, as many of us do, and usually it's longer by the end of the day than when it started. But the day is generally filled with meetings and appearance engagements out in the community, which is a big part of the job, and managing a staff of about 125 people in a wide variety of programs. So, to your point, no 2 days are the same, but each day is, I find, energizing and enjoy going to work.
Yeah, well, that's good for all of us, right? Everyone likes to go and enjoy what they do. With
Sure.
that, we will take our first commercial break, and then when we get back, we will get a little more into what Turnstone does. You are listening to Commissioner's Corner on WOWO. Welcome back to Commissioner's Corner. I'm your host, Allen County Commissioner Ron Turpin, and today's guest is Mike Mushett, CEO of Turnstone. So, Mike, before the break, we talked a little bit about your why, how you got involved in this work of working with those with disabilities, and kind of what a day looks like in the life of CEO. You mentioned a little bit earlier when you first came to Turnstone in 2014, it was an agency that Nancy had been CEO of, I think, for 20 years, maybe been the second or third CEO in the history of the organization. And it had changed quite a bit. However, there was also a very big vision. I was on the board at the time and knew that, we were going through the process of building the field house, which you talked about. And it really was, the vision was really competing in Paralympic sports, which was a new concept to all of us. I know at the time being on the board, we're familiar with the Olympics, but the whole Paralympic thing really was just starting to take off. And so it was a new concept for us. So walk us through, from what you knew coming from your time helping design it and then coming in, what was the vision for the field house and getting into adaptive sports, particularly at a Paralympic level? Why was that occurring?
Yes, it was, the focus of the field house, now known as the Plasma and Athletic Center, certainly was to create a comprehensive state-of-the-art sports program for people with disabilities that would be recognized nationally and be constructed to host local training programs, regional, national, international events in a wide variety of sports. And it was about another 125,000 square feet of programming space added to the 65,000 square feet that we already had. So we're almost at 200 square feet of programming space. And, sports with the opening of the Plasma Center became a central focus. But at the same time, we had to continue to integrate our core programs that were already in place. And currently we're in our 83rd year of existence, and it's been a steady evolution of programming through the years to get us to this point. But we had to integrate programs such as speech, occupational, physical therapy for children and adults, which was the cornerstone of programming, the Early Learning Center for children with and without disabilities, which is geared to prep young children for kindergarten. We have memory care program that was added a few years back, fitness and aquatics, health and wellness, equipment loan program, adult day service, case management. And so that's what makes Turnstone unique in the United States, is that we are the largest provider of comprehensive services for people with disabilities under one roof in the United States. And that is a source of pride. And so while the sports program and the Plasma and Athletic Center was getting a lot of attention opening up, we still had to keep the focus on our core programs as well. So it was pretty much a juggling act.
Right. And we'll get into some of those as we go through here. But when we talk about the Plasma Center, I mean, the field house, I know that I was on one of the fundraising teams to help build that out. And we did early on in the conceptual phase, we flew to Alabama. And we did a tour of a facility, I think that was in Huntsville, that was considered to be kind of the gold standard, for that. And our goal always was, as you mentioned a little bit ago, with Nancy Lorraine and that group, was a world-class facility, which, a lot of people, Fort Wayne, Indiana, why would you put something like that in Fort Wayne? But our goal at the time was to build something that not only competed with that facility in Alabama, but actually exceeded it. Do you think we did that?
I do. We still maintain close contact with our friends at Lakeshore Foundation in Alabama, and we do some joint programming projects, planning, and they were amazed at what we built here in Fort Wayne, and they were great to work with because they shared their best practices and the challenges that they experienced and changes they would make. But the big difference between us and Lakeshore Foundation is Lakeshore Foundation is strictly a sports and wellness program, whereas Turnstone offers comprehensive services, and the Lakeshore folks were jealous of that fact. And they've incorporated some of our concepts into their programs. And then there's another program, 360 Sports, out in Arizona, that is also a sports-only program. But the three of us, as far as our agencies, are in a class by themselves as far as elite sports programming facilities for people with disabilities. So, yeah, we have made our mark.
Well, I think that's an important thing for our listeners to understand is we're always talking about quality of place and how we keep improving on quality of place throughout Northeast Indiana. And one of the reasons I wanted you on the program is to help educate the public about, if you have a loved one, a friend that has, a mobility issue or disability, Turnstone really is a huge asset to our community. And it's something that is pretty rare. We punch way ahead of our weight class as a community in what we do. So one of the things over this next hour, we're going to get into some of these different programs that Turnstone offers because, we know there's still a lot of people out there that whether it's, you've got a loved one who's getting elderly and has, certain issues, or whether you've got someone who may be younger that has disability issues, Turnstone really has a lot to offer. And so that's one of the things that is really, it's a gem in our community. So it's always good to remind people of that. So Mike, you've said you've been CEO 12 years. Turnstone's been in existence 83 years. When we first started, what did that world of services for disabilities look like? And what's changed in your 12 years that you've seen for Turnstone?
There's been a rapid evolution, I think, in opportunities for people with disabilities, not only in sports, but employment, education, all aspects of society. And I think to your point, Ron, about the role that Turnstone plays in the community is we're very much focused within our walls as far as the programming. But secondarily, we are focused on the community at large, and we work very closely with Windswell Foundation now, AWS, and Greater Fort Wayne, Visit Fort Wayne, local architects, builders, and other community leaders to put together an accessible community that benefits all of our citizens. So universal design now is commonly incorporated in all new construction in the community. The riverfront, the parks, the Coliseum, the baseball field, all have accessibility and universal design. And so it's an ongoing process, but the community has bought into it. And so we're constantly asked to consult with designers and builders, and again, working with other nonprofits to incorporate accessibility in all aspects of the community to build a disability, universally designed community that everyone will benefit from. We're all going to be old at some point, and so ramps instead of chairs, wider doorways, hospitality staff in restaurants and hotels that are trained to work with people with disabilities. It all comes together and it makes a much better community for all of us.
Right, and we'll get into that a little bit on the next side of our break. We'll take our second break. You are listening to Commissioner's Corner on WOWO. Okay. Welcome back to Commissioner's Corner. I'm your host, Allen County Commissioner Ron Turpin, and our guest today is Mike Mushett, CEO of Turnstone. Mike, before the break, you talked about some of the things that have changed over the years. And I think I remember when I became a board member of Turnstone, there was, one of those time graphs on the wall that talked about when Turnstone started in the 40s. It may have been with children that had polio or some of those things. So, pretty much a small audience, maybe 100 people served, something like that. And then over the years, programs have been added to increase that. And I think if I hear you correctly, Turnstone still does all of those things, and they kind of are a voice in our community for making sure the community is set up for all those with disabilities. So walk us through, on the campus you have, how many clients do you currently serve annually?
We are in a constant state of growth. The fiscal year that ended June 30th of 2025, we served over 4,600 unique clients in all of our programs, which was about a 10% growth from previous years. Ironically, as we continue to grow, our waiting list grows. We have waiting lists now of almost 700 people waiting to get into our various programs, and so we're constantly working hard to grow staff. We're pretty well maxed out on program space now, so we have to slow down a little bit on the number of new people we can bring in. But it's being a nonprofit, we also have to raise every dollar that we use for our programming. So it's the growth is steady. We focus on 11 counties of Northeast Indiana is our primary target area, though we won't turn anyone away. We have people that have come in from all over the state, all over the country, and all over the world for treatment at Turnstone. So, it's all-encompassing, and we never turn anyone away because of inability to pay. And there are many other nonprofits in Fort Wayne that operate from that same principle, but as a result, that puts a lot of stress on our fundraising to cover those costs.
So I think an important thing for listeners to, even though you're located in Allen County, you really serve a much wider audience. There are folks from out the region that come to Turnstone weekly for whether it's therapy or I know we've got a memory care program that if you are a loved one who has an older memory that has member issues, and you can drop them off there, for to kind of get a break and also to give them some interaction with other people, right? So there's a number of those programs that Turnstone offers every day for people throughout the region. We talked a little bit about Paralympic sports, and most of our listeners would know that this year was one of those years where we had the Winter Olympics, right? And then a few weeks after that, you've got the Paralympic Games. And so Paralympics now are really in concert with the Summer and the Winter Olympics. And so it's gotten much more visibility over the years. I know when we first, built the field house and talked about getting those Olympic rings in, for Paralympics, that was a big, big deal to us. And we had to jump through a lot of hoops for that. They just don't hand those out. You've got to meet a lot of criteria. What type of events do we host at Turnstone, and why is this something that's important for Northeast Indiana?
Yes, the events that we host are of a regional type competition, national championships, international events, and different types of training programs with Olympic and Paralympic partners. And we have one of the premier facilities in the United States, so there's no problem securing events or partnering with events that want to come to Fort Wayne and Turnstone. But on a given year, we will host 10 to 12 major regional, national, in some cases international competitions, which bring in athletes, families, support staff from around the country and around the world. And one of the components that we highlight in bringing these events to town is the economic impact on the community. We work very closely with Visit Fort Wayne in bidding on events. They help us in hosting events. Some cases help with funding with volunteers, but work with us and making sure the hospitality industry is geared up to accommodate large groups of people with disabilities. So the economic impact is a big piece. Fort Wayne has gotten a reputation as a hot spot in the United States to host these type of events. On a given year, we will have $2 to $3 million in economic impact on the community with the events that we bring to town. So that's very important. But the events themselves align with our mission, which is maximizing opportunities for people with disabilities. So we're bringing in the best of the best from around the country to compete in these different sports, and it's a great interaction, role modeling opportunity for our clients to have the opportunity to interact with the athletes, to see them in action. We've had a number of Paralympic athletes that have come from Fort Wayne that have gone through the ranks, that have gotten their start by observing elite level athletes that have come to town for tournaments and competitions.
Yeah, to walk the audience through some of the competitive sports that we're talking about: wheelchair basketball, power soccer, sled hockey, rugby, track and field, kayaking, wheelchair tennis, archery, cycling, goalball, which is fascinating to watch. I mean, these all are. If you've never seen them, I would encourage you. Turnstone has these events going on all the time, and almost all of these events are open to the public. Mm-hmm. Bowling, rowing, and adaptive golf. So these are just some of the different Paralympic sports that, if you think about someone that has an injury or a disability, that they love sports. However, obviously they can't do sports at the level they did, before. This gives them that ability to do that. And these are athletes. These are people that, they compete, and they are athletic. And so there's not many places like Turnstone in the country where folks that want to do these kind of sports can train at and compete at.
You're right, Ron, and we have a great sports staff that know sports inside out, and certainly know adaptive sports. And so whatever your skill level, if you're introductory or a young child just wanting to begin to get involved in sport, all the way up to an elite level athlete, we can accommodate you and find a sport that works, that you're interested in. And it's again, there's a wide variety of sports, and you can compete at the intensity and make the level of commitment that you're comfortable with. So it's it's one of the rare things in society, I think, that can be all things to all people.
Yeah. Well, with that, we'll take our final commercial break, and then we're going to get into some of the other programs that Turnstone offers. You're listening to Commissioner's Corner on WOWO.